Wow, that episode was crazy. Was that a season finale, or what just happened there? That was only episode 9? Did I just watch an alien movie? Like, I'm pretty sure that might have just been Alien Covenant. What is up, everybody? Gannon here, back again with another one of my Star Trek reviews. Now, I was surprisingly disappointed by episode 8. It was the first one to really disappoint me out of the entire season, and I was pretty hard on it because when you have a franchise that is used to giving its viewers like a handful of goofy, great filler episodes in the span of what's normally an on average 20 episode season, I really have to look at your season that only has a measly 10, and I have to look at each one with a little bit of scrutiny. So when I feel that one of them like actually underperforms and is subpar, I'm definitely going to grill you a little. To summarize my thoughts of last episode, I thought the cast did an amazing job. The crew behind the scenes did a 10 out of 10 job redesigning the sets for the episode. It all looked really beautiful, but the episode was definitely a pretty face with no substance. The script, in my opinion, was very mediocre and didn't allow the cast to actually do their jobs. They performed well with what they were given, but when the episode, as you can see, plainly relies on the viewer liking the cast to truly appreciate it. I've only known this cast for a total of 8 episodes. It's a little early to expect me to love this episode when the plot is them running around the ship, performing a badly told summarization of a bad children's story. Like, it's not even good by a children's book standards, and you're going to imply in some way that it has some connection to Benny Russell? Come on, man. Dude, do not. Tisk. They spent as much effort on that script as they did with that lame book cover. That's all I'm trying to say here, folks. Benny Russell liked writing science fiction and was actually kind of angry, if I remember, in that episode when you told him to write anything other than what he wanted to write. Why would he write mediocre children's books? Also, there's just so many questions and implications for that. And then at the end of the episode, you have this awkward scene because you really didn't give enough attention to the alien entity that's stolen the bodies and minds of Dr. Mbenga's crewmates and friends the whole day. And yeah, I know this show is episodic, but didn't they just kind of get curved recently by that one perfect society that seemed all nice, but really they were definitely guilty of child execution? I'm just saying this scene was pretty awkward, and the only reason you could give it brownie points is because it kind of implies that the Nebula entity is something similar to the wormhole aliens from DS9, and that the whole episode was a Deep Space Nine reference, but that Nebula monster could have easily have been trying to munch on his daughter's life force. There's been at least 3 shifty entities in Star Trek that have exhibited that type of behavior, and Mbenga just really got lucky here that his daughter got Cisco'd. Got to speak my piece, I'm just being real here. Maybe today's episode of Strange New Worlds can curb my saltiness a little. Yes, today we are going to be reviewing Strange New Worlds, episode 9 of season 1. Very excited because this episode was absolutely crazy and bold in a lot of ways. Let's get right into it. Rant, but with all that transporter daughter buildup, I was left weirdly disappointed by last week's episode. It made me want to be a salty hater for a little bit. I'll probably rewatch the episode years from now and think it's pretty neat, but for now, I'll be judgy and cynical as I watch these episodes coming out on a week-by-week basis. For the first 8 minutes of this new episode, by the way, it already had me hooked, like 100% hooked, line and sinker, actually, with a quick, nice TOS referencing the K7 station, which is the station that appears in both the, original Tribble episode and the Trials and Tribulations episode of Deep Space Nine, one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek ever. So that's pretty cool that they reference that. They make note about how the Enterprise is on its way to supply that station with some Vidium. They made a huge note at the beginning about how Cadet Uhura's training program aboard the Enterprise is now nearing its completion, and the big giant question is, what is Uhura going to do? Is she going to leave Starfleet, or is she going to stay? She's always kind of said that Starfleet has been more of an escape for her, and she's never truly felt as if it's going to be a place where she's going to remain forever. So everybody wants her to stay, and it's plainly obvious to us as viewers that she is going to stay, but We need to see what kind of drives her to make that decision. In the crazy ending of this episode, which I have like respect for, but also slight mixed feelings about, definitely gives us a great reason for why Uhura decides to remain in Starfleet. In my headcanon, by the way, her wanting to leave is definitely a reference to Nichelle Nichols thinking about leaving the TOS back when it was airing originally. Previews for this episode implied horror, blood, and maybe Gorn at the beginning of it, so I like very much excited for Gorn at this point while I'm watching. Their mission to the K7 station is, however, put on hold by the fact that they get a more urgent Priority 1 mission to aid a fallen starship called the USS Peregrine. Always pronounce the ship names wrong, so if I say it incorrectly, it's literally my job at this point. This is a ship that had to make an emergency landing on a planet called Vallejo Beta 5, and Pike and gang now have the responsibility of going there, investigating, and seeing what's up with it. Now, I'm really just of the belief that in this era, ships, especially of the Constitution class design, are not supposed to land on like a planet. Like, they're always meant to be in space dock or just up in the sky. If you're going down on a planet, it's like a last resort. The ship's not meant to be there, and you're definitely going to probably break it a lot. It's not like Voyager that actually has landing struts. You know, that's just what I think. The USS Peregrine is also, we learn, a Sombra class ship, and Mbenga has apparently served on one of these, which is cool. It is definitely a possibility that Mbenga served during the Klingon War. It might have already have been like confirmed at this point, but it's cool that we're getting some backstory on Mbenga and like learning what other ships he's been on. The Sombra class uses the same parts as a Constitution class, whatever the hell that could imply, and evidently has a similar look and design to it, but it's literally just like 1/4 of the size. I believe their crew complement was around 100. I believe specifically it was 99. Pike decides to send Una to deliver Vidium to K7 while he takes the cadets on one final away mission. This is kind of fried in my opinion and is just a huge weird plot hole and is just like bad writing. Like the TOS wouldn't make a mistake or do something as weird as this. Why do they need to make Captain Pike look a little bit stupid here? They could have separated him from the Enterprise through means of like an enemy intervention, but no, they were like, oh, Captain Pike knows he's taking his crew into a potentially really dangerous Priority 1 situation, and he decides to like purposely separate himself from the Enterprise and allow Una to take the Enterprise to K7 station to deliver Vidium. And like, if they don't get the Vidium, is the station gonna lose power for a little bit? Are people gonna really die? What's going on here? Because why would Starfleet even ask them to do two things at once? Like, they could just split into two people. Just doesn't make sense. Nor do we get any confirmation that Starfleet was like making them do both things at once. A captain would never so easily leave the comfort and the advantages that his ship has. It is very, very fried that Captain Pike is like, oh yeah, this is like one of the most dangerous calls as a Starfleet captain you could probably be called to. Starship down situation. We don't have actual communication with this starship. Bro, come on. Like, you really just want the resources of 2 shuttles to protect himself and his very valuable senior staff members instead of his whole starship? Like, okay. And also, yeah, there's a reason why the Enterprise couldn't be there, because if they were there the whole episode, the crazy thing at the end of this episode probably could have been avoided. But come on, they need to write in a better reason why the Enterprise can't be there, because as a captain, you should almost have like an unhealthy obsession with like being near your ship and using it as an asset. That was one of Captain Kirk's coolest features, is that he was weirdly obsessed with the Enterprise, and I just feel like Captain Pike should probably display that a little bit more. But other than that, the start of this episode is fire. We even see a scene where they promote an ensign. Anson Mount gives some great Captain Pike speech performance, and there's even a funny joke later in the episode after Spock accidentally refers to, you know, the previous mentioned lieutenant as an ensign. They go aboard the fallen ship, and then they learn that all of the controls are hardwired to engineering. The captain and crew are found shredded by the elements, and probably some creatures as well. Around 20 of the original 99 are found initially, and that just goes and tells you that the ship is very small. The oh shit factor starts to set in when Lieutenant Kirk and them stumble upon a mound of mangled Starfleet bodies. Like, it looks gruesome, something out of Berserk. Captain Pike and Lon stumble upon a dead Space 2 radio audio record of the captain recounting that they saved 2 aliens, one of them an Orion, and the other one just an unknown humanoid. One of them had Gorn eggs on them and tried to commit suicide with a grenade, yada yada yada, the regular degular. So it's now starting to set in that Pike has separated himself from the Enterprise and has willingly put himself in a Starship Down situation, which, small plot hole reasonings aside, is so freaking cool. I just wish we could have gotten here a little bit more logically. Also, why was Lon not more suspicious of the Gorn before this, considering her experience with them? Like, she just kind of looks at the mangled bodies and doesn't think, oh, that could probably be Gorn, even though throughout the whole rest of the episode, she's literally like a Gorn expert, like she's written the Gorn encyclopedia. It's really cool, by the way. On the audio recording, the captain cryptically says, if you're watching this, then we're probably still not alive, which is really dark and, you know, also true because they were super dead. Pike, Uhura, and Lon investigate the ship and stumble upon this sick blue alien, which I mean that literally and then also just non-literally, because he is definitely ill, but he's also just really cool looking and it looks too good. It looks CGI. It's probably like a mix of like both physical actor and CGI. Just looked really awesome. It's a shame we didn't get to learn anything about the alien though, because the Universal Translator didn't decide to work on them, and also they just die pretty quickly. After they put down their weapons to gain the alien's trust, it's revealed that it's protecting one of the children that they initially had saved that caused this whole fiasco. While Uhura is doing some repairs, there's this amazing scene where Hemmer spits some crazy stuff. Like, Hemmer really shows up in this episode. With the theme that Uhura is unsure about her place in Starfleet and her future, Hemmer brings up the fact that Uhura has a gift and love for making new friends, in that those bonds will probably end up hurting you at some point, and it's not productive to, as he puts it, leave rather than be the one left behind. That the love and experience that you're going to gain through creating these bonds outweighs the potential negative feelings that could also be created. Really fire scene and a good example about how valuable just a bit of good dialogue is, and it's infinitely more effective than just over-the-top visuals and over-the-top events that are happening in your episode. And then, whoa, something crazy happens with M'Benga, or at least I initially perceive it to be crazy. It's just kind of brushed off later. When Lon presses the child after we learned that her name is Oriana, that the blue alien's nickname is Buckley, M'Benga makes a weird slip of the tongue and refers to Oriana as his daughter, and I was so intrigued at what would come of that, but yeah, like I said, it's just brushed off by M'Benga saying that he was emotional, and implies that Lon was also being way too emotional with this little girl and almost blaming her, like victim blaming her. Tells her that she needs to be nicer to Oriana and actually be there for her, because this is traumatic as hell, and this is very similar to what Lon actually has been through before. But that little dialogue referencing his daughter kind of makes me feel a little bit better about the situation, that, you know, she hasn't just been kind of brushed off and that we haven't forgotten about her, and that M'Benga still is affected by this, even though it was just kind of a weird, cringy bit of dialogue. Buckley starts breathing so hard and the girl takes cover, and it's just so very clear that we're about to get some xenomorph moment in here, and I'm just thinking, okay, they're like officially bringing Alien into Star Trek. I know that there's been a ton of scenes throughout Star Trek that were directly influenced by Alien, like they took inspiration, but now they're just literally making the Gorn xenomorphs. Like, bro, they're xenomorphs. They're the exact same thing. They spit acid, they run and scurry around, they like implant eggs into people and bust out of them. They're literally xenomorphs. There's like two things this episode that I feel like people are really going to have a problem with, okay? And that's the fact that they've reimagined the young Gorn into Xenomorphs. And then also, premise of this episode is that while they're in this starship down situation, Captain Pike has to command his crew in order to like defeat these little baby Gorn, which are overpowered, by the way. The power scaling on the Gorn just goes absolutely crazy. Lon makes multiple mentions in this episode about how the entire senior staff crew of the Enterprise here, including Captain Pike, if it was one adult Gorn, they would have no chance of defeating it, which in my opinion just goes to show you like how cool Captain Kirk's defeating of the Gorn in Arena was, where I'm just like a little bit afraid. They cannot retcon the fact that adult Gorn are slow. The little baby Gorn and the little preteen Gorn were very fast and agile, like freaking velociraptors. You cannot have that be true of the adult Gorn because that's like a huge retcon. That would be the biggest retcon yet. That, like, I'm loving everything so far, like how scary and cool they're making the Gorn, and I don't care that they're Xenomorphs. Honestly, if we're going to have like that similar archetype in Star Trek, I think it's very appropriate for them to just like reimagine baby Gorn as such. But really, Gorn society is just so crazy and fun at this point that it's like, how are they ever going to acclimate into the Federation comfortably? They just seem so scary and out of pocket, like their babies uncontrollably kill each other upon birth. They like reiterate this theme of them weeding out the wheat, because what happens is Buckley is breathing hard. Xenomorph moment. 3 of these things pop out. One of them just instantly murks the hell out of the ensign that is assisting Nurse Chapel. Just no diff, sir, which just goes to show you how crazily lethal these things are. Like, oh my god, these are something out of an anime. And then they go around the ship, bam, kill the now appointed lieutenant, like Doug or something. I don't remember what his name was. It doesn't matter. That lieutenant is fake and dead as hell. The only thing that really comes out of that lieutenant's death, though, is a really amazing scene with Samuel Kirk. Samuel Kirk gets a lot of great screen time in this episode, which I love. Just, I actually really love the amount of screen time he gets and the dialogue that he puts out. We finally get a classic moment of TOS racism. Dr. McCoy or Captain Kirk is not here to call Spock a pointy-eared freak, so we have Captain Kirk's brother to do it for us. He just like is very anxious about the situation. He thinks that they're all gonna die. Spock, I'm pretty sure he gives the anatomy of the Gorn and a compliment, and then Samuel Kirk gets all pissed at him like, yo, Spock, bro, are you like a computer? Why are you like complimenting them? Didn't you just see them kill our friend? You're just a computer. You're a pointy-eared, green-blooded freak. I loved it, man. That was such a great TOS moment, a great utilization of Samuel Kirk, because we really needed to have a moment like that in this series. Lon meets up with Nurse Chapel, and after everybody is very much aware at what's going on at this point, they find the girl in the coldest part of the ship, because Lon knows that the Gorn hate the cold, so that is naturally where she would go to hide, so she just thought to look for the little girl there. It is revealed that in that one episode, in that one flashback, that it was actually Lon's brother that helped her escape and sacrificed his own life so that she could live. Now, a couple people were criticizing me for just assuming that he was her brother, but now you guys are not allowed to criticize me because that actually was the case, and I guessed right. But yeah, now Captain Pike is now tasked with utilizing what's left of his crew to defeat 2 of these alpha male Gorn. That other thing that I thought people might not like, there's this part where Spock is forced to like go and distract one of the Gorn hatchlings and is supposed to get its attention by challenging it. So he taps into his like inner emotions. He willingly turns off his Vulcan suppressants and allows himself, like some kind of anime character, to tap into his Jinchuri key and be like, I'm gonna tap into my inner pent-up Vulcan emo rage and I'm gonna scream at this Gorn. And honestly, it was a little bit interesting. I feel like there's definitely nothing wrong with that. It was, one might even call that like a really good scene, but I just feel like the old heads, that's just not gonna sit right with them. They end up defeating the Gorn. There's just like one of these Gorn left. They're not trying to let these things grow into adults because, like I said, power scaling for the Gorn has gone so crazy that just one of them is able to like murk an entire starship at this point. They defeat the final Gorn with Lon luring it into like the engineering bay, and then she gets into a safe pod, and Hammer presses a button, puts down some dry ice on the Gorn and freezes it to a crisp, and Lon gets out and breaks it with a hammer. That's just a quick summary of what happens. So they defeat the Gorn. It's literally like a Ridley Scott alien episode. It's great. I love a lot of things about this episode. There's just a couple points where the writing could have been more graceful, and then just the bombshell, like Lieutenant Commander Shax's moment of this episode is we're 9 episodes in, and what do they decide to do at the end? Around like the middle point of this episode, there's actually a point where Hammer gets like bodied, dotted up with some acid from the Gorn. Lon looks at him and she like notifies the rest of the crew, actually, we haven't defeated all the Gorn. The acid, that's how they reproduce. Hammer has Gorn eggs inside of him. He realizes this, and the end of this episode is just like crazy, dude. I did not see this coming at all. Like, I didn't think that they would do this. They're killing off a crew member so early. Hammer dies. Like, he kills himself. He jumps off the end of the engineering bay into a precipice to save the rest of the crew because he doesn't want to risk just spawning more of these Gorn babies. And here's the thing. There's a couple things that I guess I'm a little bit bothered by this because really the scene's beautiful. Hammer's death is beautiful. It's like really great. It's really shocking. I can imagine if you're like a viewer watching this for the first time and you're like spamming this entire series, it's gonna hit you like crazy because Hammer really is a great character. He's a great engineer, but I'm almost just kind of like mad that he's gone so soon. Why did they decide to kill him off? Is it because it's not easy to constantly employ and work with an impaired actor? Like, I just don't get it. What's the deal? Why can't Hammer remain the engineer for the rest of the series? Like, I assume they're probably going to replace him with a young Scotty. I don't think that they should do that because Scotty really didn't show any evidence of him knowing Captain Pike. Hammer gives this like beautiful farewell speech to the crew and especially to Uhura, and then just jumps off into the precipice, and it's just like, wow, that really just happened. Like, Hammer really just died like that. Like, it really seems nobody is safe in New Trek. We don't want characters sticking around for like 3 or 4 seasons. It's just crazy. I didn't think that we'd see a cast member go so soon, and also I really thought that it would be Dr. Mbenga and not Hammer because Hammer was clearly one of the strong points of the cast, and even though they did his death kind of weirdly so well and out of left field, I'm just so kind of sad and disappointed and maybe even a slightly bit salty that they decided to do it right now. Like, episode 9, it's not even the season finale. This felt like a season finale because after that, after we go on the Enterprise and we have the whole funeral and everything, like, everybody gets so emotional. I'm over here about to effing cry for Hammer. Spock goes out into the corridor and starts smashing shit. Obviously, he's let the emotions loose, and Hammer, great friend to everybody, especially Spock. They showed great chemistry before. His Chapel has to go and console him and tell him, Spock, you're not weak for feeling those emotions. You're human. She puts her hand on his neck and like takes it away. You can still see like hand is red imprint on Ethan Peck's neck, dude. Oh my gosh, this stuff's like so 4K. It's like Asuma Sensei's death from Naruto. Emotions are building up, bro. Hammer has only been around for 9 episodes, but he's so good. It feels like he's honestly been around for 20. He should have been around for 20, dude. New Star Trek needs to be longer. Have these characters around for longer, and I need to be able to grow it truly attached to them like I do in old Star Trek series. It really feels like characters come and go way too fast. Also, just Lon leaves at the end of the episode to go and try to find guardians or parents of this weird little shisty girl who did not help them the entire episode and was literally like a hindrance to them. Lon decides to abandon all duties aboard the Enterprise to go find her like guardians, and it's Saru leaving the ship just for like not even an episode. Literally was just gone for the season finale and instantly came back. They're probably going to do something similar with Lon because I know for a fact she's going to be in season 2 because it was kind of spoiled that she showed up in that Toronto scene with Captain Kirk, and I'm just sitting here thinking like, why even do that? It's so stupid. Just keep her on the ship. Actually, super negative points for that. We're just going to write some reason why Lon can't be in the final episode because it's probably some external cruddy casting reason why she couldn't be in the final episode. I just don't get it. Why do they just have her leave the ship at the end? It's stupid crap. Why is she just leaving the Enterprise? I'd honestly rather you guys get to the final episode be all crazy and dramatic and say, oh, Lieutenant Commander Lon is actually on Ryza right now, so she's not going to be participating in the crazy events of the final episode. Why are you writing that she's going on this convoluted crusade to go and help this girl when there's really not that many motivations for her to do so? She's clearly a character, part of the cast that it needs to stick around more so now than ever because we've lost Hemmer. Why? With all that being said, this episode, I gotta give it like a 7 out of 10 just because it was a great horror episode. There were so many things that I liked about it, but also those like 3 points have to be deducted. A handful of stuff that was really, really fried about this episode. Like absolutely cooked. But what did you guys think? Leave it down in the comments below. I very much am looking forward to what you guys have to say. I love reading comments. It's my favorite thing about YouTube. If we get 10K subscribers on this channel, I am going to dress up as a Star Trek Xenos and film myself probably harassing people in public. So if you're interested in that at all, please do subscribe to the channel. I'd be very flattered if you were to do so. If you'd like to discuss any of the topics that we discussed here on the channel, be sure to join my Discord. The link is in the bottom of every description of every video. That being said, hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Live long and prosper.